Magandang araw. Ako po si Johnny S. Likod, ang inyong guro para sa Araling Panlipunan 8. Paksa ang Imperyong Islam. Ito po ang aking detailed lesson plan. Tumayo ang lahat para sa panalangin sa ngalan ng Ama, ng Anak, ng Espiritu Santo. Amen. Magandang umaga, class! Mukha nyo yung mga masasaya at ang upuan ay maayos. Ipagpatuloy nyo yan, class. Bago tayo magsimula, isi-check ko muna ang attendance. Walang absent. Ito ang mga layunin ng ating leksyon ngayong araw. Na ipapaliwanag kung paano nabuo at lumaganap ang Imperyong Islam. Napahahalagahan ang mga ambag sa kabihasnan ng Imperyong Islam. Nakapagbubuo ng grafiko sa pagbalangkas ng mga mahalagang kaalaman sa pag-aaral ng Imperyong Islam. Bago tayo dumako sa ating leksyon ngayon, nais ko munang magtanong sa inyo kung ano ang inyong napag-aralan noong nakaraang leksyon. Ikaw, Marjorie, sino ang asawa ni Justinian at maimpluwensyang babae sa panahong ito? Tama, si Theodora ang asawa ni Justinian at maimpluwensyang babae sa panahong ito. Siya ang asawa ng isang hari na napakaganda. So ngayon, meron akong ipapagawa sa inyo at bumuo kayo ng 2 pangkat para sa ating gawain ngayong araw. So, sa unang pangkat, ito sa inyo, kunin nyo, at para sa pangalawang pangkat, kunin ninyo. So, bibigyan ko kayo ng 5 minuto para buuin ang mga ginupit na litrato. At pagkatapos ng 5 minuto, ididikit niyo sa pisara. Pwede na kayong magsimula, class. Ano ang inyong napansin, class, sa 2 larawan? Ito ay ang Muslim at ang Mosque. So, sa 2 larawan ngayon ay may relasyon sa ating leksyon. Ito ang Imperyong Islam. So, ang Imperyong Islam. So, sino ang makapagbibigay ng ideya tungkol sa Imperyong Islam? Anyone? Sino? Huwag magsabay-sabay ng sagot. Itaas ang kamay kung gustong sumagot. Kay Marjorie, meron ka bang ideya sa ating leksyon ngayong araw? Mabuti. So, ang Islam ay itinatag ni Prophet Muhammad noong ika-7 siglo. So, magpapakita ako ng 2 video para mas malaman natin kung saan nagsimula ang Imperyong Islam at kung paano ito lumaganap sa ating kabihasnan. Handa na ba kayong makinig, class? Kung handa na, umupo ng maayos at makinig ng mabuti.
The religion known as Islam originated in the 7th century of the Common Era in Arabia in the city of Mecca, a centre of trade at which gathered diverse peoples, including those from the Jewish and Christian faiths. At the centre of Mecca was a cuboid structure known as the Kaaba. According to Muslim traditions, the Kaaba was first built by the Prophet Adam, and then rebuilt by the Prophet Abraham for the worship of the one God, Allah. However, by the 7th century, the Kaaba had turned into a major pilgrimage site where different Arab tribes venerated idols. Some of the residents of Mecca rejected the worship of idols. Prominent among these was Muhammad, son of Abdullah, who was known in the city as the Trustworthy. In the year 610, at the age of 40, Muhammad was on retreat in a mountain cave during the month of Ramadan, when he is said to have been visited by the angel Gabriel, who commanded him, "Recite," and revealed words which Muhammad felt had been written on his heart. These revelations, Muslims believe, continued over the next 23 years and eventually came to be collected as the Quran. They declare that God is one, overturning the polytheistic foundations of 7th century Arabian religion. They also question the economic inequalities of society by calling for social justice, and particularly the care of the poor and orphans, reminding people that they were accountable to God for their actions. The Quran declares itself to be the latest in a long line of revelations from God to humanity, explicitly affirming the truth of the Torah, the Psalms, and the Gospels, and teaching about faith through stories about Moses, Joseph, Mary and Jesus, and other prophets. The Quran states that the message of divine unity is universal, for God has sent messengers to every nation and people. Tradition places the total number of prophets at 124,000. In the Quran, Muhammad and his followers, as well as the previous prophets and their followers, are all called Muslim, a word that literally means a person who has submitted to God. Understood in a general sense, everything in the universe is Muslim, in its submission to the Creator, silently singing his praises. Muhammad began his mission teaching to a small group of followers in Mecca, but soon found himself ostracized by the Meccan aristocracy, who were unwilling to part ways with the traditions of their forefathers. In the year 622, facing severe persecution, Muhammad fled from Mecca to the oasis city of Yathrib, now known as Al-Madinah al-Munawwara, the City of Light, or simply Medina. This event, called the Hijra or emigration, marks the beginning of the Islamic calendar. In Medina, Muhammad was able to organize his followers into a community for the first time. He negotiated both war and peace with the Meccans and the surrounding tribesmen, eventually conquering Mecca in the year 630. By the end of Muhammad's mission, he had provided what the Quran calls a beautiful example of the way to live in accordance with God's will, which Muslims from then until today have endeavored to emulate. When Muhammad passed away in 632, there were disagreements among his companions about succession and the nature of political and spiritual authority. In the course of time, these would lead to the split between what we today call Sunni and Shia Islam. Other forms of diversity within the Islamic community, or Ummah, would develop over the centuries. Early Muslim leaders and dynasties expanded the borders of Islamic civilization through to Spain, Central, South and Southeast Asia, Africa, and even into Eastern Europe. In the process, Islamic concepts were adapted to local contexts, at times accepting ideas and modes of expression from traditions as diverse as Greek philosophy and Confucianism. The ever-developing traditions of faith, practice and spirituality unfolded as Muslim communities emerged and evolved in diverse settings across the globe. Muslim traders, mystics, scholars, poets, rulers and architects all contributed to the shaping of distinctive regional cultures, as trans-regional Islamic notions and traditions interacted with local communities to produce distinctive forms of law, statecraft, theology, art, architecture and science. Like other world religions, Islam too has been invoked to support and legitimize diverse and even contradictory values. For example, interpretations of Islam have been used to both liberate and oppress women, or to promote peace and provide arguments for war. In more recent times, Islam has been utilized by a variety of nation-states to legitimize a range of political ideologies. As a result, the experience of being Muslim today is often deeply influenced by the political context one is living in. Diversity of interpretation has always been an essential aspect of the Muslim experience, as particular groups have turned towards different individuals for guidance. From religious scholars to members of the Prophet's family considered divinely appointed, to spiritual guides who teach through the sanctity of their characters and the wisdom of their insight. It is helpful to think of Islam in terms of both unity and diversity. Muslims believe in one God, Allah, whom they worship and conceive of in different ways. The Prophet Muhammad provides the single most important model of how Muslims should live an exemplary life of faith, but there are diverse understandings of how this model should be followed. The single most important text in Islam, the Quran, is interpreted in diverse ways and for diverse purposes, and there's a single Muslim community that is diversified through cultural contexts, beliefs and practices, and the diverse authorities whom they follow.
And hello, fabulous AP students. This is Mr. Jacobson. I am excited to be with you today. Today we're going to talk about the developments in Dar al-Islam. Dar al-Islam basically means everywhere that's Islamic in the world, either under a caliphate or on a separate kingdom or so forth. Everywhere that Islam is governed another area. So let's begin. Okay, so to understand Islam, first we have to understand how did it emerge on the world stage? Like what was going on that allowed it to emerge? Because Islam, you see way down here where Mecca is at the very bottom? That's where Islam is going to merge. That's where Muhammad will grow up. And something to really understand about this is that Alexander the Great never wanted to conquer the Arabian Peninsula. Neither did the Romans. In fact, no significant ruler ever tried to conquer the Arabian Peninsula because it was a desert. And it would be hard because you got to take your men in there, and you need to have a water source, and in deserts it's rare. There's limited resources, and there was really no incentive. People just didn't really feel like that was worth the effort. And so for the most part, that area, the Saudi Arabia, the Arabian Peninsula, just sort of gets left alone, and Bedouin or indigenous people sort of live there. So around 630, okay, when all this starts happening, we have the Byzantine Empire in the green, and we have the Sassanid or the Sasanian Empire, the Persian Empire, in the orangish brownish color. So these two were touching each other, they're bordering each other, and that is a big no-no if you don't have an alliance. And so because they bordered each other, they actually started fighting each other a lot. And they would waste valuable resources over and over again, trying to outdo the other. And for 200 years, they would just duke it out between each other, exhausting their manpower, their resources, and everything else. To the point where when Islam does rise up here and they unify the Arabian Peninsula, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. First, they're eventually going to take over all of the Sasanian Empire and then take large chunks of the Byzantine Empire away as well, including Jerusalem. So nobody really saw this coming. No one thought anything powerful could really come out of the Arabian Peninsula. And so that's one of the reasons why Islam comes out on top, because it was highly underestimated based on the area which it emerged. So within about 100 years, we have Islam is going to spread all the way from India, West India over here, all the way to Cordoba, Spain. They're going to conquer all of North Africa, then they're going to cross the Mediterranean and conquer Spain that way. And so it's going to expand really fast, and the majority of this expansion will be through conquering and military warfare. Okay, and this is what we will call Dar al-Islam. And then the first caliphate to come about will be the Umayyad Caliphate, and their capital will be in Damascus, which is in Syria right here. And then eventually the Umayyad is going to be overthrown by the Abbasid Empire, which is going to be a Persian Empire. Still all very Islam. So as you can see here in the map, they don't have all of North Africa like the Umayyads did, and they don't control Spain. Spain is Umayyad of Spain. It's still Muslim. However, it's got its own governance. So the Abbasid Empire doesn't really have any say over here. But as you can see, it's still very big, still very powerful. This is going to usher in the golden age of Islam. The Umayyad, they focused on conquering and expansion. The Abbasid Empire is going to focus more on the arts and literature and improving daily life. And so we have this golden age that emerges where science, culture, technology just flourish at an unprecedented rate. And then we'll also have something very important called the House of Wisdom that will be located in Baghdad. And this will be like a major university, if you will, institution. And you'll have Muslims and Jews and Christians and even Zoroastrianists, which we really didn't learn about. But anyway, they'll all participate at this university and kind of help increase each other's religion and understanding philosophically of who God is. And so the Abbasid Empire is going to slowly start declining. The first thing that happens is the Mamluks, which were a bunch of slaves slash government officials in Egypt. They're going to seize control of Egypt and northern Africa, and they're going to break away from the Abbasid Empire. So the Abbasid Empire is still around. They just lost a pretty big chunk of Egypt and northern Africa, and then the Mamluks will initiate the Mamluk Sultanate, and then the Seljuk Turks, which are north of the Abbasid Empire, they're going to come in and they're going to conquer Baghdad, and they're going to begin the Seljuk Empire. So we have basically everybody wants a piece of the Abbasid Empire. Where they're located is right smack dab in the middle of Asia, practically, and so it's there's high interaction from other civilizations going through there. So the Seljuk Turk, they're going to attack, they're going to win, they're going to be around and kind of control the Abbasid Empire and for well, as you can see, from 1037 to 1194. But they're going to kind of go away in obscurity, and then after that, the Abbasid Empire is going to continue, although they're going to be significantly less powerful. Baghdad as a capital is going to be hurt. The Silk Road paths that used to go through Baghdad are now going to go more north, far north of Baghdad, so they're not going to get a lot of that. And then there's salinization and soil erosion and lack of water that's also starting to come around Baghdad. So the Mongolians put an end to the Abbasid Empire in 1258 by conquering Baghdad. And the Mongolians, I mean, here's a picture, guys. So here are the Mongolians, right? And do you see these people here with their feet flailing in the air? Yeah, so the Baghdad people, they got conquered once, and then they kind of fought against the Mongolians the first time, and after that the Mongolians came back and just leveled Baghdad to the ground and then took people and buried them face down in the dirt while they were still alive to prove a point, don't screw with us. So the Mongolians, they mean business.
Base sa inyong napanood, class, gagawa tayo ng aktibidad ngayong araw. Hahatiin ko na naman kayo sa dalawang pangkat at bibigyan ko kayo ng ating paksa ngayon at igagawa ninyo sa loob ng 10 minuto. Naintindihan ba, class? Okay, mabuti kung naintindihan ninyo. So, magsimula na tayo, class, para sa ating aktibidad ngayong araw. So, ito ang inyong mga materyales. So, get one and pass, class. Kumuha ng isa-isa para sa inyong mga paksa. At para sa pamantayan ng inyong aktibidad ngayon na araw, pamantayan, tamang mga kasagutan, 50%, kooperasyon, 30%, katahimikan, 10%, malinaw na pagbasa sa mga sagot, 10%, at ang kabuuan ay 100%. So, pwede na kayong magsimula class para mapadali ang inyong mga aktibidad. O class, handa na ba kayo magpresenta sa inyong kasagutan para sa araw na ito? Mabuti. So, para sa unang pangkat, pwede na kayong magpresenta sa inyong sagot. Maraming salamat sa unang pangkat. Pangalawang pangkat, pwede na kayong magsimula sa inyong kasagutan. Maraming salamat. Pwede na kayong umupo. Ngayon, gusto kong ipaliwanag ang inyong ipinipresenta dito sa harapan ng inyong kaklase. So, ang Imperyong Islam ay itinatag ni Prophet Muhammad noong 7th siglo. At noong 622 CE, ito ang higera kung saan lumikas si Prophet Muhammad sa Medina. At noong 630 CE, ito yung pagtatanghal ng Kaaba sa Mecca bilang sentro at banal na dambana ng Islam. At noong ika-632 CE, namatay si Prophet Muhammad. So, ito yung panahon ng pagkamatay ni Prophet Muhammad. At noong ika-661 CE, ang pagtatag ng Umayyad Caliphate na kung saan pagkamatay ni Prophet Muhammad ay may 4 na successor niya. Pagtatag ng Umayyad Caliphate at pagtatag ng Abbasid Caliphate noong ika-762 CE. Kasi pagkatapos bumagsak ng Umayyad Caliphate ay sumunod ang Abbasid Caliphate. At sinundan ito ng paglitaw ng Seljuk Turk noong ika-1000 hanggang sa 1100 CE. At noong ika-1200 CE ay bumagsak ang Seljuk Turk. At pagkatapos nun, ng pagkabagsak ng Seljuk Turk ay ang pagtatag ng Ottoman Caliphate. Noong ika-1453, ang pagtatag ng Ottoman Caliphate ay bumagsak sa kamay ng mga Mongolian, kung saan ang mga Mongolian ay mga nomadic tribe sa silangang Asya. So, naintindihan nyo na ba, class, ang Imperyong Islam? Hindi lang yan kung saan lumaganap at nabuo ang Imperyong Islam, kundi meron din silang naambag sa ating kabihasnan. So, ano-ano ba ang kanilang naambag sa kabihasnan? So, sa larangan ng agrikultura, ito class, paggamit ng pataba sa mga pananim. Pangalawa, ang industriya. Sa industriya, ang damas, tilang yari sa linin, bulak o lana. Sa kalakalan naman ay ang resibo, chike, credit card, letters, traffic, at tarif. So, yan ang mga ambag ng mga Islam sa panahong ito. So, ito ang sa chemistry, alum, borax, nitric acid, sulfuric acid, soda, cream of tartar. So, hindi lang sa chemistry, kundi meron din sa pisika. Ambag sa optics gamit ang anatomy at geometry. At meron din ang medical. Canon of medicine, pagkakaiba ng measles at smallpox. At saka sa astronomiya. So, malaking naiambag ito sa ating kabihasnan ngayon kasi ito na ang gamit ng mga maglalayag sa gitna ng dagat. At ang panghuli ay sa larangan ng matematika. So yan class. So ito ang mga ambag na iambag ng mga Islam sa ating kabihasnan na ngayon ginagamit hanggang ngayon. So naintindihan ba class? Meron ba kayong katanungan sa ating leksyon ngayon araw? Kung wala na, ay maraming salamat sa inyong pakikinig. At bago tayo magtapos, ay meron muna akong ipapasagot sa inyo na isang quiz. So, bibigyan ko kayo ng 5 minuto upang sagutan ang ating quiz. Para sa inyong takdang aralin class, magsaliksik tungkol sa iba pang mahalagang katuruan ng Islam. Isulat ang inyong mga nasaliksik sa isang papel. At maraming salamat class sa inyong pakikinig. At magkita-kita tayo bukas sa susunod na leksyon. Maraming salamat and God bless.